even take Bethesda for example. Starfield, one of the biggest games to be released in a long time. One of the big things is the maps are awful. And then within a month of the game being out, even less than a month, just some stranger created a mod that fixed it. It's like, think about it. This big ass giant multinational game developer with all this big ass idea pool to pull from, still got it wrong, and then one person fixed it. Now Bethesda still lets people mod their games, which is awesome. I mean, but that's only, I guess that's a PC thing. Yeah, you console cucks don't get to don't get to dip your toe in the mod waters. That's a good news. Here we go. Welcome back, BS with Brian Simpson, episode 79. Remember, if you want to see me on tour, just go to BrianSimpsonComedy.com. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, you want advice from the advice champ, just email me at BSwithBrianSimpson@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at 323-451-1980. Also, every Tuesday night, bottom of the barrel at the Comedy Mothership in Austin, Texas, 7:30 and 10:30 in the Little Boy. All right? No. Oh, also, if you want to support the podcast, click on one of them links, get some from one of the sponsors, or like it, share it, all those things. Tell somebody. All right. I guess the elephant in the room is the Morocco earthquake, but like you said, there's nothing to really say. It's another disaster. But what I will speak on about it is that I think everyone's exhausted with caring about it. Because you know what I mean? Like having to put out like emotions for everything all day, every day. I don't know if we set up for that. And then when something major happens, we don't got nothing. We don't got it. That's what the pandemic fucked us up. It's like we was already had that. Like we aren't the generation, like even the kids now, they're not the generation that's going to learn how to live with social media. It's going to be the next kids, but then they're not going to have nowhere to live. So I don't know I don't know. But what I'm saying is by the time humans are ready, because the young kids now are the ones making all the mistakes. You know what I mean? And their kids are going to be the ones that grow up and be like, wait a minute, so y'all just didn't have no privacy? I don't know, maybe that was a mistake. The backlash is going to be the correction. But then by then, it's like, I don't think the earth will be as habitable.
Do you think that we're going to just break back down into smaller units over time? Smaller social units?
Yeah, man. You know what's so funny? I was watching a thing about the Bronze Age collapse the other day, and it was like, that scares the shit out of me. It's so much, we got so much in common with all the empires and shit that have failed before. But there's something about, and I bet you those people back then thought the same thing. We're never going to fall. Rome was never going to fall. It's Rome. The Achaemenid Empire is never going to fall. Xerxes ain't going to never die. I don't know, man.
How long did the collapse take? Because, people talk about like the fall of Rome. Fall of Rome took hundreds of years, really.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on, like you said, because the fall of Rome, it depends on who you ask, right? Because it depends on when you decide that the collapse started, right? But to my knowledge, the Bronze Age collapse took like a few decades.
That's not very long.
It's not very long at all, because it started to get to the point where like all the war and shit fucked up irrigation, which was everyone depended on that to live, and when the irrigation was gone, it was like it snowballed, because there wasn't. They were all dependent on each other for. It was all these like loosely connected states, and they all depended on some sort of imports from the rest, which is supposed to keep you from killing each other, but it didn't. So the war, famine, plague, all that shit combined, it just broke up everything was interconnected in a way where it couldn't survive. And like, bro, they people forgot. And the scribes died. All the scribes died because there ain't no writing for like the next 200-300 years. So the scribes died, the farmers died. The royalty and they was the first ones to go. All of the the powerful, the aristocracy and all that, they was the first ones to get up out of here. Because I guess the real lesson to learn from that is that, like, well, for the ruling class, your power is an illusion. Let me reflect that. Your power is a reflection of an agreement between you and people that decide to recognize your power. But it's a very tenuous role. It's a reason why they say heavy is the head that wears the crown. Because yeah, I mean, I'm no expert. I mean, I just watched like 5 YouTube videos, but I don't have like a strong recollection of all the facts. And that led me down a couple Wikipedia holes, but it's just a lot. It's a lot to take in.
The Bronze Age is interesting because that was an era, like when you talk about Bronze Age, it's like Assyrians, Hittites, Greeks, Egyptians, and stuff like that. And back then, war was like, if you had a couple of thousand people, that was a big fucking army. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so and you couldn't fight at night. You could only fight during the day. So these military campaigns were, even for really small groups of people, were extraordinarily expensive on a society level to keep those people healthy, fed.
Right. And if you lost,
transportation.
Yeah, if you lost, and people don't understand this too, logistics is what wins wars. Because the farther away from your home base that you are, the more expensive and risky it is to supply the army. And that's why people like Alexander the Great was crazy. He was, because this motherfucker wanted to conquer everything. So it's like, and what's so funny about the Bronze Age collapse is, who ended up taking over was the nomads. Because it got to the point where there was so much corruption and shit like that. Like I told you, the kings and queens and all of them, they died first. But there was like a small group of like real super poor people that lived in the desert that learned how to thrive that way, and they didn't have a lot of shit. So, the other kingdoms didn't feel the need to like exploit them, so they left them alone. And so when everything fell apart, these motherfuckers was the most powerful people. And they just started moving in, and taking over, and then they got to the point where those warlords got hired by the last little remnants of civilized cities to like protect them from the other warlords, and then that's because they kind of became the new kings. And anyway, we on the verge of this.
Do you think that's why people like apocalyptic fiction so much now, like Fallout and Walking Dead and Last of Us? And
I guess, but I think the average person doesn't give a fuck about history.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're taking like a real fear that societies and civilizations have, but they have to mediate it through fiction and science and science fiction and fantasy.
What I'm trying to say is that I think that because the average person doesn't study history at all, most people don't, the fictionalized apocalypse still seems like it's not close, like it's not going to happen, because most people don't think about the fact that it's happened several times, over. So it's like I feel like we like to flirt with danger and all of that, and it's one thing to think about maybe, but I think it does it if you don't have the contrast of actual real human history, then it's just fantasy. You don't feel connected to. It's almost just like it's the same reason why it's hard to convince people of climate change and stuff like that, right? It's because the consequences are so far away in their head. Yeah, because most people, listen, if there was some kind of actual like big disaster connected to the climate, that like if it wasn't this slow, gradual creep towards death, we'd have done something about it a long time ago. It's like you ever have to go to the emergency room and the whole day you hurting, and you get there and they go, oh yeah, it's just like on your way there you making all these promises, man, I'm gonna stop drinking, I'm gonna stop smoking, I'm gonna cut out fried foods, and then you get there and they go, oh yeah, it's just indigestion. You go, okay, and you go right back to drinking and smoking. And it's that's humanity right there. It's like, oh, there's no consequences right now. Okay, well, no, fuck it. Yeah, bro, it's been 100 degrees for like almost every single day of the summer in Austin, which is a record. And yeah, I think we had one day, right, under 100, and so it was like that's the hottest day ever in the city, and some people still are like, yeah. It's so funny. It's the same people that if there's a winter storm, they go, global warming, huh? Like that weather counts, but this weather don't. So I don't know, man. I'm glad that I'm hitting my stride. I'm in my prime right at the end. I'm not gonna have to suffer hopefully. Because that's the thing, is like people gonna survive when all this shit collapses. It's still people that's gonna, who gonna survive? The poorest people, the people that's already surviving under the circumstances that you fear. They're gonna be the ones running everything.
People know how to struggle.
So it's like, yeah, remember we used to make fun of doomsday preppers? I think they had a point. Because I'm not good. I can't do outside of civilization. I could barely put up a tent. I'm definitely not. I mean, I could start a fire. But I'm really not prepared. Like, I would need to be in a group for sure. I'm not the Last of Us dude. It was like if it was just me and you and the kids, I wouldn't. I would just have to do what you told me. Like I can dig and chop. But how many? Let me ask you this: How many people? Each person adds one survival skill. How many people would you need with you and your family? How many people would you have to recruit? If everything
I've got a small cadre of people on the short list. I've talked through this with a very, very good friend.
Of like
the guy who officiated my wedding.
If shit the fan, we gonna meet up in the cave.
We have a bug out plan.
Yeah.
In the mix. We almost pulled the trigger when it was when COVID hit. Mm-hmm.
Hey man, yeah.
But we were like, it ain't happening yet, and it's not happening yet. Although COVID showed a lot of the cracks in the. COVID definitely changed my belief about how things would shake out in a true shit hits the fan scenario.
Yeah. Well, but did it really? Because what COVID really exposed is the fact that in any emergency, people with money are never going to pay the price that poor people have to pay. That's what I learned. Here's a microcosm of that. I feel like we spoke about this recently, but I'll never forget that it was the whole everyone had to stay home shit unless you were essential, right? And then they kind of later on massaged what essential meant. This is California, and then the city of LA passed, well, the governor did, and then the city council passed a thing, basically like rent relief, where you didn't have to pay rent, right? The problem is that the city council, like 9 out of the 11 people or something, were all rental property owners. So the little caveat they threw in there was like, oh, you still gonna owe the rent at the end when you can go back to work. You understand what I'm saying? Which doesn't make any sense. It's like, if I can't go to work and can't afford the rent, what difference does it make if you allow me not to pay it right now when I'm just gonna have a, $10,000, $20,000 debt when this is all over with and I haven't been working for a year?
It doesn't make any sense.
And so, well, right. But what it did was it made sure that the people that were already well off would stay whole, right? They didn't have to sacrifice anything. And
well, that's always the case. That's like when General Motors got bailed out, right? And I think I think it was correct to bail out General Motors, because if General Motors goes under, then so many people lose their jobs. But I think the fact that we bailed them out, we should own a piece of that fucking company now. Like, why did they get an interest-free or virtually interest-free loan, but individuals have to pay back their loans? Doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, it does make sense to me. I know why. I'm just saying it's an absurd.
And then they still come out and make
scenario.
shitty calls. It's not like that money went somewhere other than keeping people employed. They ain't putting none of that shit in the research and development. Actually, that's not true. I mean, you know what? Honestly, what are the other car companies that General Motors owns? They don't own Ford, do they?
No.
Yeah, Ford's getting it out here. Ford for now with the Cadillac CTV. I almost got one of those. The CTV Blackwing.
General Motors is Chevy, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac.
Right. All the worst brands of cars. No?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Like, what happened to good old fashioned corporate espionage? Like, y'all know it's other car companies y'all can steal ideas from. Good old corporate espionage. You know what they really afraid of? A Chinese car. Boy, if the Chinese was to throw a car over here, like a luxury car, something like that was like $5. Boy,
weren't they going to do that with an electric car? Isn't there a Chinese company that's building an electric car that's supposed to be a Tesla killer or something like that?
Well, I don't think we would allow that. I mean, but also we're in a bit of a pickle with the with the goddamn with the semiconductor shit, because we're in this trade war with China, and we banned. What do we ban? We banned like American companies can't buy chips from China.
Right.
So then China
something like that. I mean,
China was like, well, y'all can't buy this from America, and now it's this interconnected thing. Anyway, the end of us is going to be corruption. We all know this. Corruption is the source of every collapse of every major society. It's just now what's funny is now it's so global. It's like your corruption used to just affect your people in your region. Now it affects everybody in the whole world. So it's a wrap. Man, see, I thought we started off talking about something positive. No, it was an earthquake.
You saw about an earthquake.
We'll get there. We got some emails.
Have you heard about the? I was going to ask before we leave the China thing. Have you heard about the Mate 60 Pro?
Oh, the phone?
Huawei. Yeah, the phone.
Is this something? I mean, I've heard of the Mate. I don't know if the 60 Pro is something I've particularly paid attention to. Is there something fantastic about it?
It's like the newest one. Like, they just unveiled it. It's got the best camera in the world. It's got one of the fastest processors in the world. Yeah, the Mate.
Smartphone. Look, Huawei been killing it. And the fact that we still haven't unbanned Huawei is that's weird to me. But yeah, they've been making some of the best phones. If the American market just hasn't been exposed to Huawei like that, but they killing it in Europe. Well, they were. Yeah, and they killing it with the design shit. It's one of those things where like I've only had one Huawei phone in my hands, and it was dope. It was like I think it was the Mi Mix. No, that's not Huawei. Maybe it is, but it was like it's one of the things like when you hold it, you like, oh, this. This can't, there's like slaves. This is so nice. There must be slavery involved. You know what I mean? For the price, like this is definitely some slavery involved. So You know, and I think that's how they doing it out there. You know. Yeah, but I like me a Huawei. I like me a Huawei phone. But the fact that they can't, like, you can still buy one. You can import one from Europe or something like that, but you can't get the Google apps to work right, or you have to do some kind of hacking. I ain't got time for all that.
You got to do like a side load thing or something like that to.
Yeah, man, those days are way over for me. I used to be into that, modding my phone and all that. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. It's hot outside. Keep your dick cool with Sheath underwear. Here's how it works. There's a pouch for your dick and a separate pouch for your balls. It makes your package look awesome. It keeps things separated down there. This is absolute facts. You know, I keep telling them to make a wider pouch for my dick. I mean, I don't know how girthy people are over there at Sheath, but you don't realize how much you need your balls off your legs until you know it's possible. You know, this should be a feature in all underwear. It's like, I don't understand what the holdup is. But for right now, you can get it from Sheath. Okay, keep your balls off your legs, put them in the pouch. Once you try Sheath, you're not going to want to wear anything else. Shop their boxer briefs, trunks, and apparel, and check out their collabs with personalities like Michael Malice and Cowboy Cerrone. If you're dealing with boob sweat this summer, Sheath has something for you too. Check out their sports bralettes, boxer briefs, and boys shorts. Go to sheathunderwear.com and use code BS to get 20% off your first order. Plus, Sheath Underwear's 100% money-back guarantee. That's sheathunderwear.com and promo code BS. Get Sheath Underwear. Support the show. Support your balls. Football is in full swing with another week of epic games. When you're looking to add to the fun, look no further than DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers can bet $5 on football and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. All DraftKings customers can take advantage of 2 new offers every game day this September. Get on the NFL Week 2 action with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now and use code BS to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and take home $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code BS. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario, see dkng.co/football for eligibility terms and responsible gaming resources. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. Hi, Brian. I heard you on the podcast say differences are more powerful than hatred. Did I say that? That doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where you got that from, but ever since I started approaching problems with people having that in mind, I started having less fights with people, especially women. Thanks for the peace of mind. Big fan of the podcast. Keep up the good work. Huh. Differences are more powerful than hatred. That's how you know that's not a good saying, because I don't know what it means just from reading it. Differences are more powerful than Man, I wish people would tell me, like, the podcast or even a timestamp, like which episode are we talking about? Because I need the context.
Sometimes people write in and it's like it's not BS with Brian Simpson. They listen to BS with Brian Simpson, but they heard you on, Rogan or your mom's house or something.
Oh,
it's like,
right.
I haven't listened to every single episode of that stuff.
Well, I would need context to know why I said that, because that's not like a thing I be saying. So, but I appreciate the love, brother. Thank you. I'm glad you found. Oopsie. I'm glad you found some peace. This is from Michael Delvey. Oh, that's the homie. I started comedy with this guy like 13 years ago. I wonder what he's up to. Okay. Hey, Brian, what's good? As I understand it, you hate unskippable cutscenes. I do too. If I start to memorize the lines of a cutscene because this is my 5th time seeing it before a boss, I can't beat looking at you, Ninja Gaiden. I'm not having a good time. My question is this. Has there ever been a game that had cutscenes you didn't want to skip? If not, had there been a game where you at least tolerated the cutscenes? Yeah, I mean, well, we ain't even gotta get into that. I mean, look, unskippable I'm glad you brought up Ninja Gaiden. He talking about Ninja Gaiden from the Xbox, the 360. Okay, or no, maybe it was the original Xbox, but the game was from Software, and so they love to frustrate their player base, and so they had unskippable cutscenes before boss fights that you had to watch again every time you lost to the boss. Like every time you had to fight him again, you had to watch the cutscene again. And tell me that's not a big fuck you to your community. That's crazy. That's crazy. Are there any cutscenes you didn't want to skip? I mean, yeah. I mean, from game to game, there were cutscenes that I've watched. I'm not saying every cutscene is trash. And some of them I watched some of the Diablo cutscenes, all the ones with Lilith in them. But for the most part, I just want the option to not watch them. There's nothing so brilliant that I don't want the option to skip it, because that seems to be the reply to that episode. There's a lot of people like, but what about these games and that game and this game with an awesome cutscene? It's like, I don't give a fuck how awesome it is. I should have the option to not watch it. The game shouldn't be making me do nothing but play the game. Anything that take time that ain't me interacting, I shouldn't have to sit through. Yeah.
Did you ever play Metal Gear Solid?
A long time ago. Not any of the recent ones.
But I mean, you play like Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3? Any of those?
No, I think
because that's
I mean, I think I played a little bit of what was the one, the Liberty one?
Sons of Liberty.
I played that. I think I played the first Metal Gear Solid and the Sons of Liberty one. No?
Yeah, because like Metal Gear Solid 3 has cutscenes that are so good that I've rewatched those just as a YouTube video before. But they're still skippable. They're still skippable.
Right. That's my point. Is there a cutscene that's so good that if you was the developer, you would be like, everybody's got to see this one?
Nope.
Because that's what they're doing out there. Everybody need to watch this. And listen, I know it's art directors out there, video game art directors and art teams that like you put a lot of work into them cutscenes and you want people to see it. I don't give a fuck. Fuck you and your craft. I don't have time to sit through your bullshit scenes or even your amazing fucking Oscar-worthy scenes. I don't have time. I shouldn't be forced to watch them. If I wanted to sit there watching some shit, I wouldn't be playing a video game. I'd be watching Netflix or something. I guess it doesn't really answer your question though, but I don't really have an answer. Okay, Felipe. Hey, love the show. I wanted to hear your thoughts on if you think consumers are spoiled. Considering things like Starfield that takes years and millions of dollars to make that we end up dismissing because of bugs or because we can't actually fly through the atmosphere. P.S. Not sure if you're into game recommendations, but Deceive Inc. is a really cool under-the-radar title. A 10-player objective-based battle royale where you play as spies amongst NPCs. That's okay. It would make my day to hear your thoughts on it and my week if you actually like it. Okay, I might get it a shot. But do I think consumers are spoiled? Yes and no. I think consumers are. It's a combination of. I mean, I guess it depends on what category of consumers you're talking about. I think young people have a little bit of entitlement. I think gamers specifically have a lot of bit of entitlement, just as in general. But at the same time, it's because they've grown up in an era where the large gaming companies will just fuck you to your face. So I think a lot of people are just cynical and jaded, and it comes off. And don't get me wrong, I've encountered many a whiny little bitch in a forum or Reddit or whatever, and they exist. They exist. But the game companies are trying to fuck you. It's not like they paranoid. There may be one company left that has any goodwill The companies have sold their integrity. CD Projekt Red, Blizzard, maybe Ubisoft is next. Who knows? Once Ubisoft go, that's it. What's another big game developer that EA has been gone? EA used to be the shit. So all the major game companies that used to have any integrity at all, they've been bought by some bigger company that uses that goodwill they built up with fans over decades and just throws it the fuck away in like a couple years.
Yeah.
And they'll rush out a title. It'll come out bugged up, but they done already sucked you in with the pre-order, and it's a whole game, and they know they gonna make money no matter what, so they just keep doing it. So I don't. I guess Bethesda has some goodwill as well, but it's a wrap sooner or later.
They harmed a lot of that with 76 though.
Yeah, Fallout 76, they fucked it all up. Yeah, they did. They harmed a lot of that. I mean, I would have never guessed CD Projekt Red would have lost theirs, even though they didn't even really do any shady shit other than the fact that they were pushed out way too early. They
just needed more time.
They needed way more time because the game was so ambitious. It's still an amazing game if you can get it to work on your equipment. But yeah, so yeah, our gamers whiny little bitches. Somewhat. Yeah, it's a small subsection of the gaming community that just cries about every fucking thing. But that's mixed in with the legitimate cries. I think we're just gluttons for abuse. So I don't think there are very few companies that I trust anymore. Like even take Bethesda for example. Starfield, one of the biggest games to be released in a long time, right? And there's still stuff that's all fucked up with that. One of the big things is the maps are awful. And then within a month of the game being out, even less than a month, just some stranger created a mod that fixed it. So it's like, why don't that motherfucker work up there?
Might end up doing so.
Think about it. This big ass giant multinational game developer with all this big ass idea pool to pull from, still got it wrong, and then one person fixed it. And now Bethesda still lets people mod their games, which is awesome. I mean, but that's only, I guess that's a PC thing. Yeah, you console cucks don't get to dip your toe in the mod waters. But yeah, I just think that they're slowly, and that's not just the gaming. I think gamers are just the most vocal, but every company is doing that now. I don't think there's any brand that has the trust that they had 20 years ago. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Maybe Apple. No, not even Apple.
Mm-mm. Absolutely not.
Yeah. So who is? I mean, I think that's over with. The way, even from, not just from consumers, but also from workers. Like, you're never, ever again going to hear somebody who's been working at a company for 20-some years or 30 years and retired. They worked their whole career. That's never going to happen here.
There's no benefit to it.
No, there is no benefit to it. And a lot of that, a lot of like the older people, like when I briefly worked at Intel, I remember coming in and realizing that I was getting paid more than people that had been working there for like 15 years, and I just got there. And so it's like they're trying to push them out because they had all these crazy benefits and all this other stuff. So it's like they'd rather pay me a higher salary with way worse benefits than keep them around so they can retire and pull off. You know what I mean? It's like every company act like that. And of course, and I didn't know better. That was my first like actual corporate job. So I didn't know better than like talk to my fucking colleagues about my pay and shit like that. Oh man, it turned into a whole problem. So anyway.
I mean, the number one way to increase your wages is you move companies, right?
Yeah.
People that make the most in their 40s and 50s are the people who have switched companies every 3 or 4 years because you make more money. Your increase in salary and benefits is higher when you move than if you get internally promoted.
Oh yeah, I mean, I agree. Look. I feel like on your first evaluation at any company, if they not talking to you about how to move up or when your next increase and all, if they ain't talking about raising your pay and raising then right there, start looking for another job. All that we'll talk about it on the next evaluation. I ain't trying to hear all that. I'm out. Because they like it's like the NFL. They'll use you up. They'll just use you up, and when you get hurt, you gone. So you got to look out for yourself. Fuck them companies. All right, one more. It's from Steven. Hey, Brian, my name is Steve. I'm a big fan of the show. I first heard from you on YMH and have been following since then. I've been listening to episode 78. See?
Ding, ding.
Where you discuss Burning Man and how they got stuck out in the desert. I live in Reno, Nevada, where we have burners come through to get out to Burning Man. One thing that my wife and I get a kick out of was there was heavy rain coming that was stated the week of. So even though it was heavier than it usually is, it wasn't a shock that the rain was going to be bad and everyone was just underprepared. As I live in Reno, I have my own personal opinion about burners because when Burning Man season falls upon us, it is rough. Burners are great for the economy of Reno and Sparks as they feed our businesses and spend quite a bit at the restaurants, stores, fast food, etc. However, we always know when they're coming from the RVs and campers that look like they haven't ran in 10 years. They are typically spray painted with bikes on their grills and other crap hanging off the sides. They are inconsiderate and horribly dirty. Once Burning Man is over, they tend to leave a majority of their crap in parking lots, on the side of the road, or anywhere they can, along with just tossing their gonorrhea-laced bikes. My dad drives Uber, and he has had to cancel multiple rides from burners because they haven't showered and are coated in the black rock dirt that is a pain to clean out of the seats. Don't get me wrong, being in the desert on drugs, looking at art, partying, and staring at a big fire sounds awesome, but my disdain for burners because of how they come through our town makes my need to go non-existent. Along with being poor, but that's beside the point. Anyway, thanks for reading. I've been a fan of the show from the jump and hope my own podcast can grow like yours. If you could ever come to Reno, that would be amazing, but I have heard on other shows how bad Reno is for comedy, but it would still be badass to have you come to my town. Anyhow, sorry for the long email, but thought I'd give my 2 cents about dealing with Burning Man goers. Thanks again, Steve. Well, Steve, that's a 10 out of 10 email. Couple spelling errors, but I let that slide because, these paragraphs are well spaced. He referenced the episode he was talking about.
He's speaking from personal experience.
And it wasn't a slog to get through. 10 out of 10. Now, that's probably because you do have your own podcast, and so you know all the things that make it easier. So that's good. And thanks for writing in. Yeah, I don't understand. Like I said, I used to want to go to Burning Man real bad, but I used to go. I gotta go at least once before I die. Now I'm good. I think I'm alright. And that's the thing. And it's crazy too because no one ever talks about the aftermath of Burning Man because they make it seem like when you talk to burners, they make it seem like, yeah, we go out there, we set up a whole city, and then it's like nothing was there when it's over. And it's like, well, the shit went somewhere. Where's all that garbage going?
It's still there.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, you leaving it on the side of the road and shit. I mean, and I know most of the garbage they get up out of there somehow, but it's trifling ass people with y'all too. Yeah, they care about the image of being an ideal burner, but they don't care about actually living like that. How you gonna leave? Also, you think the final thing would be a rinse off, I wish a motherfucker would get in my car covered in that fucking silicone dust or whatever.
You can't rinse it off. You got to have vinegar.
You got to have vinegar?
You have to have vinegar water to
Well, bring your
to
vinegar.
wash
Your
off
ass,
the-
bring some vinegar, then, motherfuckers. Like, you ain't getting in my car. Also, why do you need a Uber? Shouldn't you? Doesn't everyone have to drive out there?
No, I think that you can. A lot of people like fly into or drive into Reno, and then there's like buses and things. So people might need Ubers around Sparks, Nevada, and Reno and stuff like that.
And you can never rinse it off. Like, so if you never get a hold of the vinegar, that dirt just gonna be on you.
Yeah, I guess technically you could rinse it off if you had enough water, but I think it's really tough. I think it's because it's a chemical interaction. You know, it's stuck on you, and that's why you need the I don't know all the science, the chemistry of it, but my understanding is that you need like diluted vinegar to actually rinse it off. My guess is also that I bet you there is a thing that is like what Burning Man used to be, but the reason why it's still cool is because most people don't know about it. 10 years from now, it'll break and become public and get ruined, just like Burning Man got ruined. And then we'll be like, oh man, I wish I'd known about it back in 2023. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, shit always get ruined. Bro, I remember it wasn't that long ago. It was like 10 years ago. Man, it used to be this, whenever there was a full moon, it used to be a party on a secluded beach in San Diego. Like people pick a big ass bonfire, and it'd be like real cheap drugs. And you could only get down there from like climbing down there. You know, it was like,
Yeah.
and it was fucking awesome. You know, and I went quite a few times, and it was great. But it's like, you know, then a long time passed, and I tried to go one of the times. I was like, oh, this is lame as fuck. Like, what's going on here? It just everything gets ruined that way, you know. So
We used to go out.
Maybe they still do it. Who knows?
We used to go out to Azusa when I was in like my late 20s and do drugs and play heavy metal and camp out there for like 4 or 5 days. But it was awesome because we were in our 20s and we were doing drugs.
Right. And that's another thing.
Wouldn't be the same
now.
now.
Are for your 20s. Leave it to the children. You know, maybe that's it. Maybe there should be an age cap on Burning Man. Or maybe there should be separate Burning Mans. You know, maybe like a grown and sexy Burning Man, and, you know, like an alternative, like a little burning, like a cabaret. You know, for the older folks. You know,
like Coachella and Stagecoach.
Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean, like Coachella and Stagecoach? Oh, is that what that is? No, but no, Stagecoach is like country, right? Like country Coachella.
It goes a little bit more country, but really it just skews older. So, because there's a lot of non-country acts in it as well. There's usually like a big headliner that's, you know, dad music from the 70s.
Right, but like
you know
they're not gonna have Lil Wayne or Beyonce as Stagecoach, right?
No, well, I mean, never say never. I mean, maybe Stagecoach 2035 they will be.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard of these. It never sounded appealing. None of that ever. See, I don't get that. I don't want to go to a music festival. I'm sorry. I the idea of being in just all the chaos. I don't understand how that's what you want. I've never wanted that. I don't understand. Like, I go to a concert, and that's pushing it. But to go to like an infinite, sprawling, multi-day concert, nah, I don't think so. Or like go to like a Bonnaroo where everybody dirty as shit and they been dancing, and, you know, I watch it. It looks fun. Like I like to watch other people having fun, but I don't know if I want to be in the mix. I don't want to be in the chaos. You know?
I used to go to Jazz Fest when I was a kid. That was always fun.
Jazz Fest?
But that's like, yeah, dude. But that's like the OG.
Yeah. I'm good on all that. Because to me, like festival just feels like it just means you're stuck here. You know, you got like every time you want to do anything, you got to navigate a crowd. It's like, that just sounds like a nightmare. Porta potties, splitting them. Why? I like my bathroom. I know exactly how many people have been in there. You know? And some people, some people do public toilets bare ass. You know these people?
Ugh.
They bare back a public toilet like a fucking savage. I can't do it.
What if you were hired to perform at one, Brian, so that you had access to all the backstage stuff and you had your own, had a more private experience when you wanted it. You had your all access
like hired to perform
lanyard.
To perform music?
No, I mean to perform comedy, let's say.
Nah.
No?
Nah, I'm good. No. I mean, look, there was a time where I would have done that and just suffered through it. But that time is well past us.
So it's the whole affect is just you're not about it.
Like listen. Remember I went because I went to the jazz festival in Connecticut. Remember that when I met the other Brian Simpson? And now that was real chill. That was real chill, and I was still ready to go. Like that wasn't wild or nothing. I think it was only one day, maybe 2 days. It wasn't nothing crazy happening. It was it was jazz, smooth jazz playing. But even that, and I didn't perform there, but I didn't want to. It's like, nah, first of all, comedy shouldn't be performed outdoors. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. That's wrong. It's like I've never enjoyed performing outdoors. Like I've never been like, this is what I prefer. I've made the best of those situations, but no. Comedy shouldn't be performed outdoors or in the daytime. Not stand-up, I mean. Ideally. Yeah, ideally you want it to be small, dark, and inside. So everything that takes away from those things, I'm not for it. Big ass, drunk ass people. But you know what? More power to you. I'm not saying that you're a stupid fucking idiot because you like to go to festivals. But leave me out of it. Understand me. I like being in the house. And listen, and if you ask me what my problem is, I think, it's the same reason like I get a lot of, I used to get a lot of shit for wearing my headphones everywhere. I always got them. I got several different kinds and all that. And a lot of times I would be like, in the sacred ground of the comedy store or something, I got my headphones on. And some people take offense to that. What's your problem? Why you ain't got my headphones on? And listen, I think maybe if I was evaluated by a psychiatrist, it would probably have something to do with like an unstable childhood and my need to control all the variables around me so I can feel stable. But my ego's response to that is, be interesting, bitch. I got my headphones on because what's happening in there is more interesting than what the fuck you talking about. Because that's what, when something interesting happens, I go, and I'm in there, But you literally competing with everything in the world that's happening. So I don't know.
Do you have any sensitivity issues to sound?
Are you trying to diagnose me with autism?
No, I have ADHD and I have extreme sensitivities to sound. I have to wear AirPods everywhere.
I've never thought about it like that. Maybe. Look, here's the thing. As a child, I was diagnosed with ADD. I have yet to be diagnosed with that as an adult. And I don't know if you cure it or if you get misdiagnosed later or whatever the fuck it is. But I'm sure a lot of my behaviors are consistent with that. Mm-hmm. Sounds, smells, especially.
Yep.
I'm extra sensitive
100%.
to smells, and so that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing. I always smell everything first. Or hear something first. I'm like, did you hear that? Did you smell that? It's like, no. And then 5 minutes later, it's like, oh yeah, it does. Yeah. Now we're all gonna die.
As ADHD, Brian.
Yeah,
I'm not a mental health professional, but I do have mental health professionals that work for me. So they tell me that I have ADHD, and that's what the smell thing is about. I'm hypersensitive to smells too.
Yeah, that's why you can't do a stanky pussy. Can't do a stanky pussy. Okay. So now look, don't get me wrong. I don't judge. I've powered through some smells. We all have for love, but it can't be regular. It can't be a regular thing. Anyway, let's see. Hey, you know what? I was going to go to the news stories, but we always skip over the Black History segment, and I've been promising to bring this back for a long time. We got a little researcher coming up, and we're going to do that. How about this? And who is our Black History focus for today? This is an easy one. Come on, bitch, open.
Special thanks to Alex Quinones.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Marcus Garvey. Awesome. Full name, Marcus Mosiah Garvey Jr., Order of National Hero, Jamaica. Known for Jamaican activism, publishing, a founding father of Black nationalism in the early 20th century. Born August 17th, 1881 in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica, a British colony at the time. Died June 10th, 1940 in London from a stroke. A supremely gifted social organizer, founder of the UNIA, United Negro Improvement Association, and African Communities League, and the founding father of Black nationalism, Marcus Garvey, is a monumental, if controversial, figure in history. A man of contradictions, he spent his life campaigning publicly to build Black power around the world, but was often criticized by other prominent Black leaders and organizations for what they deemed incendiary, sometimes derogatory tactics that served Garvey's ego more than the movement. He paid for his own travel and education around the world as a young man, declared himself the provisional president of Africa, survived an assassination attempt, was constantly monitored and fucked with by the government, met with the Imperial Wizard of the KKK at the Klan's office in Atlanta, was deported by President Calvin Coolidge, elected as a government official in Jamaica, and was arguably the best-known Black man in the world in the early 20th century. It is difficult to offer a definitive legacy of Marcus Garvey because he was many things to many people. To some, he was a savior. To others, a swindler. Regardless, Marcus Garvey remains an unquestionably important figure in Jamaica, American history, and Pan-African philosophy. If you're curious to learn more about him, check out the book Negro with a Hat, The Rise and Fall of Marcus Garvey by British-Jamaican author Colin Grant. Yeah, that was in there. So I know Marcus Garvey was. I think every Black person knows who Marcus Garvey is, or at least recognizes his name. But he is definitely excluded from even Black history things that were taught to me. Like, because I grew up in D.C. Actually, I went to Martin Luther King Elementary School in D.C. And at the time, it was still Chocolate City. You understand? Like, the population was like 82% Black or something crazy. And so we got Black history in from elementary school. So I've known about, I learned about, Malcolm X and MLK and Mary McLeod Bethune and Matthew Henson and George Washington Carver and all of that. I learned about all that in elementary school. So like what I'm saying is the Black history was taught as just part of history. I don't know who put the stop to that or if it's still the case, but even Marcus Garvey was not even included in that education. So I would love to ask my mother how she felt about him.
Why do you think Marcus Garvey wasn't in that Black history curriculum?
I think it's because, like what he said, I think he was very polarizing. Because no one is perfect, right? And everyone is susceptible to power corrupting them. So even people with the best intentions, because think about this. To try to do what he did, to try to do what he tried to do, you would have to believe that you could. You know? And it's a short jump from I could to I'm the only person that can. Right? And there's a short jump from I'm the only person that can to I've been chosen, blessed, ordained to do. And that, and so it's a slow creep towards tyranny or whatever, or even just power trips. What I'm saying is your ego has to be massive for you to think you could lead the black exodus or the black return to Africa and these sorts of things. You have to really believe that you're capable of that. So your ego already got to be pretty decent size for you to even start the journey. But once you have real power, and what is real power? Real power is the ability for your will, for other people to respond to your will. Like when you want something to happen, you can move men with your requests. It's like, and once you get that, I mean, it's real easy to, it's easy to overstep. So I don't know him. But I know men. I know people, and so anyway. But I didn't experience this in real time. So I have no idea what the real sentiments were, versus what the history is, because it always gets lost. Like I was alive when OJ happened, and then I saw a YouTube video made by like a young person that was not a lot, like they were born in like 2005 or some shit, and it was trying to explain why OJ got found not guilty, and they were wrong about everything. You know what I mean? Because they're just going. Yeah, it was telling people that that it was because DNA was new and people were confused about it, and it's like, that's completely not true. I mean, look, perhaps that was true to some degree, but the real thing was just that the black community had very rarely, if ever, had seen a black dude get away with this kind of thing, because it was fresh after the Rodney King thing,
right?
You know what I mean? And so it's like it was that kind of it was that kind of thing. So my point is, just like, look, the more we get away from the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing, the more that story is going to change. Like imagine, this is a crazy thing to say, but imagine having to explain to your daughter what happened between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, like was she old enough, and try to recall, I don't know. So I guess I'm getting off the path here. My point is just that I think you can be both. I think you can be a sincere, have a sincere desire to better shit for your people, and also be an egomaniac, and also do or say some crazy shit from time to time. So maybe that's why he's polarizing, And I know people like this too. I know people that don't realize that sometimes, like he said, he was accused of other black leaders for doing things that were for his ego and not really for the betterment, because imagine being, I don't know, but the same thing happened with Fred Hampton. He met with the whites, with the white the poor whites, and he was criticized for that,
Yeah.
But that's what got him killed, that unity shit. They're not with that. Anybody trying to unify people, they taking your motherfucking top off. Just know this. Like, no, you can talk about it, you can promote it, but if you actually start to do it, they coming for you. Just know that. Yeah.
So does that make Marcus Garvey right in your mind? Was he correct about the need for black
for black people to go back to
nationalism
Africa?
moving. Well, yeah, because he believed in black nationalism to the point of black separatism. You know,
I think that's just idealism.
at least that's what I argued for.
I don't think that's going to work. You know, because and listen, don't get me wrong. There are a couple African countries, and I just can't remember them off the top of my head, where any African American has citizenship, kind of like how Jews can go to Israel. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Liberia. Isn't Liberia one of them?
Maybe Liberia. I think Zimbabwe. No, maybe not Zimbabwe. I think Zimbabwe is one of them, but I'm not sure. I mean, maybe there's something to that in the future. But I don't know. I think there's different theories behind it because what would be the point because we're so culturally separate now. Like African American culture is its own thing, you know, because everyone that's a descendant of slaves, your history was erased or stolen or you were disconnected from it. So we had to like create our own shit, and that's what hip hop was born out of that. It's like we wouldn't have hip hop if we listened to this dude, maybe. So I don't know. I mean, so you're gonna take a bunch of it's just, I guess it's the same reason why every Jew don't just move to Israel. Why wouldn't you do that? If you were Jewish and you were somewhere else, why wouldn't you move to your country? Well, yeah, because I don't think it's not the same culture no more. I think the disconnect is so big. There's people that were born and raised in America, but they Jewish. But moving to Israel would be a culture shock.
Yeah.
And I think it would be the same here. It's like you were born in, regardless of your status in America, you were born and raised here, like you an American. You're like I'm just talking about your sensibilities and the things you expect and the things that you take for granted. It's a very American sentiment. It ain't like you could move to Liberia. Is that what you said, Liberia?
Yeah, apparently Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Ghana all have sort of fast
that's what I was
track.
trying to think of.
They'll have sort of fast track.
So you think you're gonna move to Ghana and just fit right in? I don't know, man. I'm like, what's the Wi-Fi looking like? I don't know. I don't know what the internet speeds are in Ghana. But yes, I mean, maybe back then he had a point, but.
Well, and also all of those countries have their own separate history that's influenced by colonialism. Like you can't really separate modern day Ghana and its culture from the colonialism that was visited upon Africa as a continent. So you're not returning to like an ancestral homeland, Yeah.
There are very few countries in Africa that control their own resources and shit. Mm-hmm. It's either everything's controlled by America, Europe, or China in Africa. Mm-hmm. Because I think Africa is the only continent that wouldn't need resources from some other place. But Africa uniting is something that the powers that be would never even allow. You know what I'm saying? Because that would mean being cut off from all that cheap cobalt and silver and all these minerals and resources and shit. Like who would allow that? Who would really want? Because the only thing that makes it, because it's kind of like the same thing that happened with the Native Americans, right? Where they show up and go, "Who's the chief? You the chief. So sign this contract. Okay, now we own all that." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like we own it fair and square, that kind of shit. And so who would give that up? Oh, we control all your mines and all your minerals, and it's like who's gonna get it up? So again, this is the cynical me asking. I feel like I should have like a African American studies expert on this bitch to control it. Maybe we should start having
Alex Q can find one.
Who?
Alex Q, who did the Marcus Garvey thing. He could do one. He has a history degree.
Oh, really? History degree?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm saying he could find somebody appropriate to come in and speak on it as an expert.
Oh yeah. Well, we definitely could do that. Also, I want him to go back and maybe do a quick little rundown of the ones I've done that were in the audio only thing.
Do
It's
that.
a lot of because I want to do Bayard Rustin again on the video for people that don't listen to the audio.
Sick.
All right, so that was our Black History segment. It could have went way better. I was underprepared because I didn't know that it was ready.
I thought it went great, Brian.
But thanks again, Alex.